Hi everyone, it's cake break time again, and I'm Janet Henderson with the Lubbock Public Library. Today we are going to be decorating this cake pan, and that is the gumball machine cake pan. We have been talking about how you can use one cake pan for multiple designs. So that's what I'm going to do today. I am going to be doing this pan, but I'm going to be decorating it like a robot. It's called Robbie the Robot. This cake pan is available to check out at the library. You can take it out for 1 week and renew it for a second week if you need to. And along with this cake pan, you get the picture so that you can get an idea of what the cake is supposed to look like. And also you get a set of instructions. And the instructions give you several ideas. It gives you one for the gumball machine, one for Robbie the Robot, and then it also gives you one for a clown. These are all quite simple to make, and I think it would be fun and fast and easy for you to do it, or to do it with your kids, or to just let your kids do it while you supervise. In addition, the instructions that also come with it give you some basics on cake decorating skills. I'm going to use the number 4 round cake decorating tip to outline, and I've got brown icing, and this is just basically a white buttercream icing that I have tinted brown with the cake decorating or food coloring. I'm decorating this cake almost exactly like it shows in the picture, but of course you can do this any number of ways. You can change the colors, whatever floats your boat. It's just meant to be fun. Okay, now we're ready to start his face. As you can see with the cake pan, there's no design on the face. So what I've done after I crumb coated the cake was to take a toothpick. As I told you, toothpicks are a decorator's best friend. And so I have sketched out, outlined some of the design that is going to be done for Robbie's face. The mouth, the nose, the eyebrows, and just some general outlines up there as well. So we'll start outlining Robbie the Robot's face, and I'm going to start with his mouth. Give him a nice smile. We want a friendly robot. And if you haven't seen other cake decorating videos with Carly or myself, what we have shown is that whenever you outline or whenever you're making a line, to get an optimal nice line and some control over it, you will touch your tip down to the surface and start squeezing, and then lift it a little bit. And as you squeeze, you continue to move. You keep the tip above the surface a little bit. It actually gives you a little more control, and it makes the line look smoother. So we'll finish off his smile. I ended a little too soon. And also his nose, which is kind of triangular in shape. And I will leave room because we're going to come back with candy for his eyes and his ears. This is going to be his, kind of like his brow. Back here. Okay, we have finished with the outlining, and I'm just going to go back and do a little bit of touch up with the lines because sometimes they were trying to break. And so I'm straightening out the lines to make it look more uniform. But then when we come back and use the star tip and fill in, keep in mind that the icing can cover a multitude of sins or mistakes, as it were. Now that we've finished outlining the cake, it is time to start filling in with the stars. And so actually for this robot, it's going to be mostly stars. And so you'll get a lot of good practice with getting the stars and practice making them properly. And as you've seen before, this is something that is really, really common on these shaped cakes. So this is a number 17 tip, which is kind of a good medium-sized tip. I'll be switching a little bit later in some tight areas to a smaller star tip. But for now, this is a good tip to use for just general fill-in. So you start squeezing and stop your pressure and then pull your tip away. This entire robot is filled in with these stars. And I want to stress that you don't want the stars to be really uniform, because if you try to make lines and like rows and columns, then you will end up with the spaces of the cake showing underneath. So you do want it random. And sometimes, since this is such a large area, you may want to, move to another area and come back, because it gets kind of boring if you're just staying in one area. So it's a good way to move along. Now, if you have helpers, or if you're like your children are doing this, they can divide the cake, divide and conquer. Like you might have a couple of children, and you could actually work 2 at a time with this. One person on one side and one on the other. And you see, as I'm squeezing with the outline, I'm trying not to squeeze so that I cover over the mouth and the nose. So I go right up next to it, but I do try to control how I'm squeezing so that it doesn't overlap the outline. Okay, after an eternity of making stars, we are now ready to move on to the finishing touches of Robbie the Robot. And I'm going to come back now. I'm back with my brown icing, and I'm going to fill in some areas with brown. And then we're going to add some of the dots to make him look a little more machine-like. All I'm doing on this is I'm just squeezing out a lot of icing and trying to, and kind of smoothing, you know, making it smoother looking to add a little bit different texture to the robot so that he's not completely stars. And now I'm going to come back and I'm going to be adding some dots with my number 3 tip. When you're making these, you just need to squeeze and stop your pressure and then pull your tip away. Otherwise, you end up with a point at the end. Okay, we're ready to put the finishing touches onto Robbie the Robot that will actually make him look more like a robot. We've added all of the icing decorations, but now we need to give him some ears. And you can figure out what works best for you. You can use cookies or candy or whatever. I just happen to have some of these York peppermint patties left over from Easter, and I stole them out of my husband's supply. And so I'm going to take the peppermint patty, I'm going to put it on the side. And actually, since what I'm going to do to make sure they stay on is I'm going to use some icing on the back of this, kind of like glue, to make sure that it stays on the side of the cake. And try to get him to stay up there. And then I'll move to the other side. Try to get them in the same general location. I felt like this was a good shape for ears, to use the Easter egg shape, but any type of candy that you have handy will work. So we've got his ears on. Now, we also need some antennae, and so I just have some pretzels I'm going to use to put into the cake, a couple of them at an angle so that they look like his antenna. And this cake pan could also be several types of, my pretzel broke. You could use it for several other designs. If you look at it, you can just use your imagination, but it's been suggested that you could use it as a fire hydrant, as a trophy, or even as like a little, when you turn it sideways, kind of like a goldfish. So you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this pan. It really does lend itself to lots of different designs. And now I'm going to give Robbie his eyes. I just got some of the peach candy jellies that felt like it would work here. So I'm going to put these on his, finish out just above the nose. Helps a lot giving him his facial features here. The reason I'm putting a little icing on these is because the icing that I put on has dried a little bit, and therefore sometimes it doesn't want to stick as well. And then I have some Skittles, and I figured I would put those on the ends in his for the iris of his eyeball. Trying to figure out a good color. How about green? That'll give him a nice bright look. And the Skittles just kind of fit perfectly in there, actually. And so now, I think that Robbie the Robot is finished. So if you would like to see him in his final form, here is Robbie the Robot. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.